Hey, welcome to C's Backstage. This is your all-access pass for everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, C's very own Chief Experience Officer, here to guide you through the world of live event production. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at cspro.com/backstage or wherever you get your favorite podcasts so you too can be backstage. Today's podcast, we're back with CEO Zach Grant, and today we're talking about building a better RFP or request for proposal. And typically we receive a request for proposal, and it's too often, we just want to see an apples for apples comparison, right? Here's my list of gear.
Yeah.
Here's the location. Here's the dates. Good luck.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of come out and say it. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the typical RFP process, because I think that too often what we do is looked at as a commodity, that we are equal to every other vendor that's bidding on a show. And it makes the intangibles, the stuff that really matters, the real value that a company that's like us, full service, brings to the table.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we want to talk about today.
What would the approach be? Pre-show, we were talking a little bit about, like, well, what would you want to see? Like, we said, maybe let's have a conversation first, and then, okay, you fit, so let me send the RFP over.
Yeah, I think if I'm on the buyer side, I think that the first thing I would do prior to putting, all the energy into sending this RFP and finding all these companies and sending it out, like, I'll probably have it in my back pocket, but I think I would want to talk to the people that I'm thinking about sending this to make sure it's a good fit, right? Because you've said it before, like, the event, this may be the one event they do per year, and it's their baby, right? This is, I've seen people get fired for badly produced events, so it has to go right. So I think I would get on the phone, make sure, just like you're dating, it's a good fit.
Yeah.
You have good chemistry, and they really get what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Because you're not going to be able to convey that if all you're asking me for here is, here's a list of equipment, here's, the positions, the times, the hotel, right? And I'm just going to put that up against 9 other bids, and I don't know who anybody is. I haven't talked to anybody, and ultimately I'm just going to choose, based on price, and
right.
It's
You're
not always
setting
the
yourself
best
up
thing.
for failure.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Totally agree. I find it often, when we're going in and we're pitching to a client or even just in the RFP process early on, I find it pretty easy to say, look, we've got the same gear as everybody else.
Yep.
We all source our equipment, audiovisual gear from the same companies, but it's about those people, right? And about the people. There was a client we were pitching on. This was a long time ago, early in my career, and they wanted to do a 3-year contract. So we looked at the 3 years and we looked at the locations. We, did all the factoring of how much it would be to ship to those 3 different places in the country. And as we kept looking, we realized that the second year was their, I think, 50th anniversary of the organization being in existence. And so we said, all right, when we went into the pitch, we said, we noticed that next year is your 50th. So the story we really want to tell is setting up for when we move this show to, I think we were going to Orlando or something in that second year. And they didn't even realize it. And so to have that conversation, it was like, oh, right, we need to set something up big. And the CEO was like, wow, okay, this is a bigger conversation. Thank you for calling that out. So that's really what you want, right? Kind of what you said about, this is your baby. It's like, would you just go to Google and look, who's the best nanny in town or who's the cheapest nanny in town?
Yeah.
You're not going to do it. You're going to find somebody who can make a recommendation. You're going to have conversations with that person you're choosing before you let go of that event, right?
Yeah.
Before you really hand it off.
Yeah, because there's a lot riding on it, right? Ultimately, if you don't trust that person because you haven't had that conversation, you chose them purely based on price, and, let's be real, a lot of our RFPs are chosen that way, then are you going to trust them, or are you going to feel like you need to dictate to them how they need to do their job? And, you wouldn't go into a restaurant and tell a chef how to cook your steak, right? Or whatever. Right. You go there because you trust that they're going to do a good job. So I think that's really important with events too. Having that relationship. Yeah.
So I think, like, going back to sometimes the choice is made incorrectly that because they came in the cheapest and they're providing everything I asked for, that company's going to make my boss happy as a buyer because, hey, we brought this in under budget and whatnot. But I mean, even if you're doing, we'll do some nonprofits and thing, and I get that budget's not, they don't get everything that they want, but it's still having those conversations. Maybe they don't need the size of screen that they've got on that list. When you have those conversations, you can actually talk through those, right? And if it's not, okay, it doesn't need to be that big because we're just doing cameras. There's no content, so there's not a lot of text being read. So you can get away with slightly smaller screens. That could save a couple dollars, right? So there's ways, as long as you have the conversation, as opposed to you've got to fit all these parameters.
Yeah.
You're just setting everybody up for failure.
Yeah, and I think that, again, if I'm on the buyer side, I would want to know kind of like the philosophy or the values of the company or why they make the decisions they do, right? So, there's a lot of AV companies out there. There's ones that think that having the latest, greatest piece of equipment is what's going to win them the job. There's ones that think that being the lowest price is what's going to win them the job. And we're one that thinks having the right people on the job is what really matters. And I think, that's one of those things that you're only going to get in the conversation with the company.
Yep.
To really understand how they do what they do, why they do that, why they make those decisions. So I don't know. I think that's important too,
And how you fit, right? Us as a company and the things that we believe here at C's Productions, I want them to fit. And there's always a way that it fits, but it's finding how it fits, right? Yeah. Okay, we get why you're holding this meeting. Thank you for sharing that. This is how we fit what you're looking for.
Right.
And there's been a few times where I'm like, okay, this isn't really the greatest fit.
Right.
We could take this approach and deliver what you need, but let's have an honest conversation about how we can get that, right? And the things you were saying about, is it an internal facing meeting? Is it external? Is it a product launch? Where's the audience? What's that audience and what's the message needing to be delivered? Anybody who's sat in on one of my talks about communication or show calling and how we've got to stick to the story. I've got a photo I share of my niece, and she's holding up the middle finger because she's got all this henna tattoo that she's got, and she's super proud of it. She's, I don't know, 8 years old or something. And her message is, look at the beautiful henna work that I had on my hand done. But all the adults are laughing because she's holding up her middle finger.
Right.
So you really need to make sure that the company you're choosing is going to take your message forward in the right way, in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Own it and make it bigger and shinier than you were even hoping.
Right. And we can't do that if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. So if all we get is, hey, here's the bid from last year with all the gear, and we just want to do the same thing, like, okay, cool. And maybe the solution from last year wasn't the right one, right? Maybe it was what they did 10 years ago and just nobody thought to, hey, maybe we should take a look at this and see if, what we're doing is really helping us achieve what we want, right? Look at it with a fresh perspective. So,
yeah, I just got off a call a couple hours ago today, before we recorded this, that the concept from the client was, and it's a show we're already doing. We're working with them, but they had an add-on on their expo floor, and they wanted to hang an LED wall from the ceiling, just to do some promo material. It was really just more of a way to fill up the space because it's an expo floor and it's boring, and it's, it's open steel beams in the ceiling. It's fluorescent lighting or whatever HID lighting they have in there. So it was really kind of ask why, like, okay, why? What are we going to play on there? All right, we'll create content on there and it'll look great and whatnot. But then as we learned more and we pulled more information from the client on the call, it came to realize more that it was about trying to fill the space. Yeah. So we said, for probably less than hanging up 4 LED walls in a cube in the middle of this area, we could cover the ceiling in lighting. And when we showed them some examples of some other shows we'd done like that and some photos I took at LDI, they were so on board because you create this atmosphere and this mood, and they realized that's what they were looking for. Whereas if we would have just gotten an RFP that said 4 LED walls, this size, this kind of content need to be driven this way.
Right.
All right. They'd walk in and be like, well, we kind of got what we asked for, but did it really make the impact that I know the solution we put forward will?
Right. I think, the way I view what we do is not necessarily to just give people what they're asking for. It's to like read between the lines and really understand what they're asking for or what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, right? And so jumping on like a call like you did in that instance, instead of just going, yeah, we can do 4 LED walls, right, or whatever, is important, because I think if I'm the buyer, I want that feedback from my vendor saying, well, I understand what you're trying to do. Maybe we do things this way because this will give you a better result, right? Don't you trust like the mechanic to fix your car for you? Don't go ahead and say, hey, change this thing and give me this or whatever, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're driving away with a broken car, right?
Yeah.
So I think trust is huge. And I think ultimately it's what you're trying to, I would hope, find is, if you're on the buying side, a relationship with a vendor that you trust, that you can approach with ideas like that, and then take their advice on the best way to do it. Because I know we do hundreds of events a year, right? We've probably seen what you're trying to do a number of different ways, and this may be your only event, of the whole year. So this is what we do. I would hope that people would trust us.
I think that's exactly right. And I think asking smarter questions rather than bullet points of gear, location, have you worked in this venue, those sorts of things. I think questions like, how do you, as a company, asking us, if I'm a buyer, how do you mitigate failure? How do you prepare for disaster? What's your disaster plan?
Yeah.
How do you, who are the people that are going to be on your show and why? Right? Like, I don't put the same, I've got a great project manager that I love for, I've probably said this on a couple of podcasts, that I use. I put the right project manager in the right spot, right? I've got a great project manager. I could use him for every show, but I know some of the shows he's just not going to be, he's not the best tool in the drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have a room full of great gear and, an average crew, or you can have a great crew with a room full of average gear. And I would take that all day long, right? Because I guess maybe this is from growing up listening to my dad mix, but you put a bad engineer behind a great sound system, he's going to make it sound like shit.
It's true.
Right? Yeah. But I've watched my dad walk into venues where the PA system was all wired wrong and, things out of phase, and he fixes it and, he makes it work, right? Because that's what the good people do. So, that's just part of our philosophy here, is that it's really about having the right people on the right job. And we have lots of people, right? You might have a lot of great project managers, but it's also about getting them for the right project, right? It's not necessarily the same guy every single show. So again, within context, knowing why we're doing what we're doing, not just here's a list of stuff, here's pictures of what we did last year, let's just do that.
Yeah. There's another project that we're working on right now, sort of prepping to get out the door. And we've got the general session, that sort of keynote room, and that's got everything that you could imagine in it. But there's a high touch, sort of executive or leadership track that's happening in another part of the building. And there's a lighting designer that I'm putting on in that space. That is what we're doing in that room. It's just truss lights with, with lights on them, and some up lights and some simple things. That's way below what he would normally do, but his personality and who he's going to be, and the fact that it's outside the keynote, it's separate, but it's as important, if not more important, than where all the flashy stuff's happening in the keynote. But because he's in there, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
And therefore the client doesn't have to worry about it, because I know how he is as more of an engineer with clients. He can have a conversation with the CEO. He's going to keep that CEO entertained if we're running late to get up there to kick off that session or something like that. And that's the right person to put in that role. Might cost us a little bit more, but the security is beyond price.
And that's not something that's going to show up on any bid, right? No. Like, it's just going to say lighting engineer, lighting designer, whatever, right? Line, price.
Yep.
And you might not know, right? Like, this is the guy with all that background versus here's the guy who just learned how to run the console 3 days ago, right?
Yeah. Just a lighting person,
right?
Rather than the lighting person,
right? Yeah. So, is there anything? You deal with a lot of RFPs. Is there anything when you get an RFP that you just kind of shake your head at, like, why?
Yeah, I think just the lack of information is the biggest one, right? Like you've just given me enough, like. Yeah. I think I saw one recently that was projection and audio for a room, and once I could tell there wasn't enough information.
Yeah.
So the first thing I said was, "Thank you for sending it over. I'd love to get on a call with one of my account managers and just talk through this a little deeper." We found out that was their keynote room, and it was like 2 screens. Oh, do you need drape? Yes, drape. You want uplights?
Yeah,
yes, uplights. Okay, we would love. Do you have a clear podium? Oh yeah, we got a clear lectern. We'll bring that. So we could have just quoted it with, "All right, a screen projector, audio system, 2 microphones." Like, right? So when you fill in the blanks, you set yourself up for failure. We might have come through as the cheapest if you just looked at it, but we wouldn't have had any of the gear. Do you need speaker timer? Do you need a confidence monitor? Do you need a remote? How many people? Oh, there's a panel. Oh, okay. Well, that's how many people are on the panel. Are they sharing a mic, or do you want to? So more information is always what I want, and then having the ability, sometimes we'll get these RFPs that are so run by procurement departments that they won't let you have the conversation, or you've got 2 weeks to submit questions, and then they reply to all the questions. Everybody sees the answers. But there's so much that's missed right out of the gate that you don't get to have, that you as a buyer are selling yourself short on.
Yeah.
If you don't have those conversations.
You know what's interesting is I don't even ever recall being asked to help someone write an RFP, but I know exactly what I see. And I'm just going to throw it out there. If you don't know how to write an RFP, like, you can ask an AV company what they want to see.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Why not?
Yeah. We should have a podcast on how to write an RFP, or the kinds of RFPs we'd like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's add it to the notes.
Okay.
How to build a better RFP. We'll call it How to Build a Better RFP.
Yeah. One of the ones that stuck out to me of just something I thought was odd in RFP that I got one time was it said that the AV provider must do everything in-house. And I just thought that was so strange, right? Because how many restaurants do you go to where, the menu is 372 pages long and everything's good, right?
Yep.
I don't go to In-N-Out and go, "Hey, make me a chicken sandwich," right?
Yeah.
So I think that what it should have been, or at least if I'm on the buyer side, I want my job done right, right? Whatever that means. So get a company you trust, right? If your main thing is like creative or whatever, pick a company that specializes in creative, right? Like, I don't know a lot of companies that do everything for every type of event well, right? There's companies that focus in trade show, convention, corporate. You've got touring companies, which are totally different. I wouldn't put a touring company to go do a trade show. I think that would go pretty badly.
I think a perfect example, we had Ben Lockwood from Warp Speed Breakout, who what they really specialize in is managing content management, right? Being able to presentation management, being able to have a site where you upload your presentation, and then they send those presentations to all the breakout rooms, the keynote, demo stage, whatever. They manage that. We could totally do that in-house. Yeah. But they do such a good job.
Do it better. Yeah.
I just want to hire them. Let them do it, right? Like, that's the reason.
Yeah.
That's why we do that.
I think that's our job at the end of the day, is to make sure that everything goes well, right? When you're a full service company, by whatever means necessary, if I got to fly a guy out of New York because he's the right guy for the show that's even local, I'm going to do that because that's what it takes to make this show go right. So if I'm not the guy that can do the creative, or, they want this piece of gear instead of that because that's, or, I think that's a better piece of gear for the thing, that's my job to make those decisions, to do is whatever's in the best interest of making that show happen.
Yep. Absolutely. This episode's been brought to you by In-N-Out Burger. Remember, if you want a chicken burger, In-N-Out Burger is not your place.
You know what? I never heard anyone say the expression chicken burger until I watched this show the other day. And I guess in Australia, they call it chicken burgers.
Oh, yeah?
Did you know that?
I guess it's a chicken sandwich, right?
We call it chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Australians call it chicken burger.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, this has been C's Backstage, your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at cspro.com/backstage and set those reminders, first and third Thursday of every month. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for joining us.
Adios.